My name is Sophia Sofranak. Tonight I have 5 people joining me for my speech. And Jeff! Thank you, Jeff, for doing this tonight. Tonight I will be talking about buying used. The fashion industry, how they go about producing so many of the clothes we know and love, and the damage inflicted on both humans and the environment as a result, and what we can do. Shopping is one of America's favorite pastimes. We've been lucky enough to have everything at our fingertips. As long as we have the cash, we can get whatever we want. And out of the myriad of the options available to us, we come back to new clothing time and time again. After a long 40-hour work week, on payday, we rush out, we buy those cute pair of shoes that we've been eyeing, maybe a new t-shirt. Clothing is really where it's at when it comes to retail therapy. People really love to find something that is new to them and makes them feel soothed, and it's very satisfying. I don't know many people who buy a car every week, but clothing really is where it's at in consumerism today. Essentially, though, we're looking for love in all the wrong places, I think. Ask yourselves, are the employees who are making our clothing satisfied? Most big brands are owned by multinational corporations that use outsourcing to yield the big production numbers we Americans love to consume. According to Human Rights Quarterly, outsourcing can be risky business. A lot of these brands may even set up humane compliance rules to ensure that their brand won't wind up under the ethical microscope like Nike did in the 80s with the Bangladesh incident. Look that one up. The problem is, however, that these factories being given orders are also contracted. That means that they don't necessarily belong to these multinational corporations. They're being hired on as extra work. They're not owned. So, essentially, when they're given a production quota, they're willing to cut corners because they're greedy, third party, and essentially are taking away human rights from their workers to meet those high quotas. The Fair Labor Association reports that significant violations of local laws concerning wages and benefits occurred during the period from August 1st, 2001 to July 30th, 2002 at factories it monitored belonging to 7 multinational corporations in the apparel and footwear industry. More recently, Gap Incorporated released a report regarding respect for worker rights at its own contract factories. It did its own research on itself to ensure that humane processes were still being ensured. It reported that in 2003, between 25% and 50% of its contracted factories lacked full compliance with local labor laws in the following regions: North Asia, Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, Sub-Saharan Africa, Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. In China, more than 50% of its contracted factories lacked full compliance with local labor laws. How many of our clothes say made in China? In mass cases, these non-compliances are incidences of child beating, sexual harassment, and overworking. That's in places where the minimum work hour is 48 hours a week. And these are children working longer hours, undergoing abuse, so that their factories can meet these production quotas. And although it can and is argued commonly by economists everywhere that these children may need the money and these factories may need the income to increase economical growth in the countries, that still doesn't make up for the waste. In 2005, USA Today published an article about American cities bursting at the seams with used clothing. Since most consumers shop new, used clothes are piling up with nowhere to go. Currently, about 2.5 billion pounds of clothes a year end up with textile recyclers who emit greenhouse gases that are harmful to the environment. About 35% gets shipped overseas and sold. The rest ends up being reprocessed into new fabric, sold as rags, or sent to a landfill. There are many things that can be done about this huge waste problem, as well as the issue of human rights. However, for many of us who don't have the time or the access to Human Rights Coalition's acts, we're left saying, well, what can we do? I used to be a huge shopaholic. Thrift stores are here. There are many of them in the United States and probably even in your local town. Thrift stores aren't just Goodwill and Salvation Army where people put all the clothes they don't want. There are vintage stores providing one-of-a-kind fashions. There are huge industries now such as Buffalo Exchange and Plato's Closet where essentially they only take clothes that are in fashion so that they can always promise to sell clothes that are in fashion. But they're used and cruelty-free, and therefore we're supporting a much better industry, staying in fashion, and I guarantee you that when you walk out with one-of-a-kind Versace dress that you know is worth $300 that you got for $10, you will feel satisfied. And I know what y'all are wondering, this dress is used. Anyways, I'd like to thank everybody tonight for being with me, and that is why we should all buy used.
Yeah.